beautiful city. We'll start doing everybody.
Hello, Detroit.
All right. Hi, Jim. Say hi to the internet.
Hi, world.
Hi, internet. Hey. I am.
Wait, everyone swear there's no accuracy.
Sure. All right, we're ready.
Welcome to the November meeting. Starting off real quick here, it's got the Grand Hydrometer Drew
Where?
has beer. Hey,
I don't even see him anymore.
Yes, hi. Thank you, everybody.
Don't turn sideways.
Where did Drew go?
Look, one side effect of losing weight is I realize I have no ass. All right.
But that doesn't mean you don't have a license.
All right, so today's Grand Hydro Talk is actually inspired by a smart-ass comment from Craig, who originally we were going to do harvest and fall beers, but when I went to the liquor store, I couldn't find anything that really excited me. And since today is the first time that we're meeting at 11 o'clock for some oddball reason, which we'll get into.
Daylight savings.
Well, yeah, and daylight savings at the same time and everything else. We decided, hey, maybe we should have some coffee beers to wake up before we do this meeting. So we've never actually done coffee beers themselves. So instead of, we've done some stouts and additions to stouts, and naturally coffee is a very big part of stout additions. I wanted to make sure that this talk had as few stoutish type things as possible. So there were two in there because I thought they were really good and worth sharing, and we hadn't had them before. Yep.
I want to toss it on the floor right away for those of us who want to make coffee beers. What about the whole issue with nitro?
All right, we'll get there. All right, so let's start. Our very first one comes from Ballast Point down in San Diego. This is their calm before the storm cream ale infused with coffee. All right, now this is very much in line with what a lot of people have been playing around with. If you've ever been to Noble or had Noble Ale Works or Noble Beer's Naughty Sauce. Naughty Sauce is their white stout. So there's a lot of play going on with people making white stouts that use coffee to replace those characteristics that you get out of dark grains. So this is kind of that same idea, but not taken to the same level as like, hey, we're making a white stout. They're just making kind of a jolted up cream ale.
Really, can they make a bad beer?
They can. They don't tend to. All right. I mean, depending upon who you talk to, some people say the habanero Sculpin is a bad beer, but that's for people. That's if you don't like habaneros. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this beer. One of the things I'm appreciating just getting off it, it's got a nice sweet coffee flavor to it. It doesn't have the kind of harsher, more acidic roast notes. It also tends to me, the beer is still beer, right? It's a little sweet. Which I would not expect out of a cream ale, at least for my taste. Some of that may be reinforced by the sweet characters of the coffee. Any other comments on there?
Like a rogue hazelnut.
Like a rogue hazelnut, but with coffee instead of
Without the hazelnut.
How do they keep that going so light?
Well, I mean, you think about it, it depends on how much coffee you're going to add, right?
Oh, and the vanilla. That's
And there's vanilla in there, yeah. Right, so the vanilla's giving the extra sweetness.
vanilla. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but it's 5.5%.
Natural flavor.
And I mean, think about it this way: is like color-wise. Color-wise, yeah. Just like we were saying with John, when you're in a pale base like this and you don't have a lot of competing flavors, you don't actually have to have a ton of coffee in there in order to get that coffee flavor across. So if you're doing something like a cold brewed concentrated coffee, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of color that's going to be extracted into the beer. And by the way, for the internet, if you haven't seen it before, there's the calm before the storm. Enjoy. So really, this is just kind of a nice way to showcase a different use of coffee. Again, very much kind of like that, inspired by the whole white stout thing, particularly once we realize there's vanilla in there. What other comments do we have?
A lot of the coffee beers have a grittiness. This doesn't seem to have that.
A good clean beer.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about this is it's beer first, it's flavor second, which is always a good thing. So where we're going next guy? Okay. All right, so while these guys get ready to go and pour me a beer. We're now moving on to the Flat Tail 6 a.m. Morning stout. This is coffee and it's a milk stout, so lactose as well. Now let's talk a little bit about coffee. America in the 1920s, and I forgot to look up the stats for nowadays, but in the 1920s, America consumed half of the world's crop of coffee. We are a coffee drinking culture. A lot of that starts actually with the revolution, right? Because we started drinking coffee because one, we couldn't get as much tea, and tea was decidedly British, so fuck the British. That's right. So instead, we decided we're going to have our own drink, and it was coffee. It really got reinforced though, because there's still a lot of Britishness left in the society, still a lot of tea drinking. Really got reinforced with the War of 1812. Our tea supplies basically dried up, stopped, and everybody drank coffee. And ever since the War of 1812, America has been basically a complete coffee nation. Coffee itself originates from around Ethiopia, has since spread out. It did not actually spread outside of Ethiopia and Yemen, that whole northern Africa area, until the 1670s or so, when the first live coffee beans were actually smuggled out of the region. Before that point in time, the only way you get coffee outside of the Horn of Africa was basically ground up and boiled or roasted so the seeds were dead. Beans were dead. So it wasn't until an intrepid smuggler basically smuggled out, I think the rumor is 5 beans, smuggled out 5 beans, that coffee actually started to get grown in other places and broke the Arab monopoly on coffee at the time. Now, much like everything else that we enjoy in this room, coffee is a fermented product. It starts off as a cherry on a bush. It grows in mostly subtropical places. So Mexico, Central America, Africa, the tropics of Asia, a few other places, obviously Colombia. Hawaii, where you get some really nice kona. But the beans are actually taken off the bushes. They're thrown out in the sun, allowed to dry. Eventually, you beat off the fruit from the beans. Those then go through a light fermentation process. They get dried and roasted, and different roasting levels affect different characteristics they can get out of them. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk about
the fermentation do to the coffee?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
It's basically, it opens up the alkaloid compounds in the coffee, if I remember correctly. It's basically what makes coffee taste like coffee. If you actually taste a green bean or something that has been through the fermentation process.
I thought that was done through the roasting.
Yeah, you go green beans into roasting, but they've already been fermented at that point because you have to get rid of the fruit.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's fermented at the site, so whether it be Africa or South America or whatever, and it's just for like a day or two, and it doesn't really produce alcohol.
Is that what Juan Bell does this?
Yes.
Just breaks down the alcohol.
If it has to be actual fermentation, yeast and the whole...
No, it's natural fermentation. It's basically what's in the cherry fruit around the coffee
Is it a
bean.
yeast fermentation?
I don't know.
Okay, cool. Just curious. Thank you. I've never
right.
heard of that before. Chocolate's fermented too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you think about it, the three main things that we probably three main things that we all enjoy here in this room: beer, coffee, and chocolate are all products of fermentation.
Yay!
All right, that's cheese. Yep. That's something on your parents, buddy. All right. All right, let's talk about the 6 a.m. Flat Tail is a brew pub up in Oregon, and they've managed to make enough beer that it actually gets down here. This is their milk stout with coffee. What do we think?
I think it's more smoky than it does a milk stout. I don't think it has a milk stout characteristic that kind of nice sweetness. I think it's more smoky.
There's a nice little hint of sweetness in the finish, but yeah, there's a lot of roast character to it.
Nice carbonation.
Their pale ale saison, you can get it fresh on tap.
We're not talking about the pale ale saison right now. Shut up. All right.
Stick to this now.
Yeah, stick to the story. All right, so we got Irene thinks that the beer doesn't have nearly enough of the milk stouty characteristics to make it a milk stout, not enough sweetness. We have some good carbonation here. We obviously have a lot of roast in the finish.
A little bit of ash.
What?
More smoky.
More smoky. Overcarbonated? All right. Remember, carbonation levels are a matter of taste. So, but yeah, it definitely does kind of pop up out of the bottle. So we'll definitely agree on that one. All right. Any other comments about the beer?
It's good.
Yep. So here's the thing. There's a reason why a lot of coffee beers that you see out there are going to be stouts and porters, right? It's because that coffee roast character, which is already inherent in the roasted malts, goes wonderfully against the roasted characters that you're going to get out of the coffee, right? So it just makes sense. They pair up, like and like. I tend to like to play around. That's the reason why we're going to have a couple of different things. But now we're going to move on to another stout. This is from McKellar. This is their Beer Geek Oatmeal Stout.
Hey, Drew.
Low monofill.
U.S. consumes about a third of the coffee nowadays.
There we go. Thank you.
Of the world.
Slackers.
What has happened to America's greatness? At one point in time, we ruled the coffee market.
Drew at the next debate.
Yep. All right. Real quick show of hands. Between the two that we've had so far, the Ballast Point Cream Ale, how many people like that one the best? The first one? And then how many people like the 6 a.m. Stout? All right. It's close, but I think right now it's still on the cream ale side.
Yeah.
All right. So now McKellar, we've had the McKellar, one of the McKellar coffee stouts before. We had the Weasel Stout. But you remember I told you before we will not have Weasel Stout again because I don't agree with the treatment of the Civets.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. If you want,
Don't push your political agenda on me, man.
if you want your coffee laden with cruelty, that's up to you to buy yourself.
Death to all service.
All right.
Extra cruelty.
Yeah. All right. Yes, I'd like to have the extra cruelty coffee. All right. But McKellar has made their name. This is one of the first. This is one of the first beers that they released that really got a lot of attention. McKellar, of course, for years has been a gypsy brewer. This one I think was brewed in Norway. So the beers from McKellar to me are always dramatic. Like they don't necessarily fall, like when they say, hey, this is a stout, it doesn't necessarily fall into what we think of as like according to Hoyle, Michael Jackson, and the BJ Speed type stout. So let's see what we got. We got a little bit of mustiness. Definitely some smoke and ham.
Oh yeah. A lot of that's what it is.
I don't get much coffee.
What's more like Canadian bacon?
Substantial alcohol. Must be higher gravity.
Lily, what does it say there on the ABV?
7.5%.
All right, so 7.5%. Definitely very strong herbal hop character coming in the finish. So this is where it rolls a little differently. To me, in a lot of ways, this tastes a lot like somebody went and took Belgian Guinness, added a little bit of coffee to it, and again, I agree, the coffee flavor isn't that pronounced, but then also added a fair amount of hops into the finish, like they wanted to go for something kind of like a bitter American stout.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, it's a little challenging to me. It's not exactly what I want.
It's like something Richard would do.
No, this is something that Richard would do as second runnings. This is Richard's second runnings.
Like you said, it reminds me of Belgian Guinness because just like Belgian Guinness, it's really oxidized by the time it gets to us.
You say they're a gypsy brewery?
Yeah, in the past, I don't know their current situation because I haven't paid attention. They used to bounce from brewery to brewery to brewery, like basically, oh hey, we'll do this beer over here, we'll do this beer over here. I think they still do that, but I don't know.
No, but now they're only at Alesmith in Miramar.
That's right. All right.
When's their tap room open?
Next year. Next year, you'll be able to have all the McKellar beer you want downtown LA.
Really?
Yep. All right. All right. We need a corkscrew. Do we have one in the cabinet?
Swiss Army.
Just shake it real hard. Savory.
Well, actually, with the Pantone bottles, you might not even have to do anything with a corkscrew. You might just pop it open and it goes. All right. So, any other comments about the McKellar? You like it?
You know what's in your mouth.
It should be an easy.
It definitely makes the presence swell, though.
Easy.
You don't put in your mouth.
You know about the coffee movie? Can you talk about it? Do you know this particular Phantom?
I haven't had those.
All right. Do you know anything about it? I would look it up, but my phone's busy. Please do. All right. So while these guys are doing their magic,
Ignore my search history, it's all porn.
Hey, John, pass that back to Colin.
I just like the label.
that's never a question that you ask with Phantom.
What's that?
Is this one a sour? Because you won't know until you open it.
Yeah, right. It's one of those.
All right.
Not supposed to be, but it is.
Unfortunately, my sample, I don't know about your samples, mine has a fair amount of light struck character to it. Yep. All right. So even looking, I can't find much on it, but I'll tell you a little bit of Phantom. Phantom's one of my favorite breweries I've ever been to. It's one of my favorite breweries in general because they are unique, odd, and decidedly different. They the brewery operates in a old farmhouse that was shelled during World War II and looks like it probably should have been dragged down after World War II. In fact, if you try to do anything with that building commercially here in the U.S., there would be about 20 governmental agencies lining up to shut you down. All right. So it is a wild brewery. The reason why I talk about you never know what you're going to get with Phantom is their bottling process is exactly the same thing as what we would do here as home brewers. They manually fill, they manually cork, they manually cap, and they manually label every single one of these bottles. And it is a funky little building with drafts coming in up over the roof because the roof doesn't quite sit right on the walls. If you shut the door to the cafe too hard, the double doors to the barn swing open to the roadway. It's one of those sorts of buildings. And Danny always does really interesting stuff, and he plays around a lot with different ingredients. This was brand new to me. I'd never seen this before. I'd never tasted it before. So and it fit right into the theme.
Where'd you get it, or where do you get it?
I got this at Ramirez Beverage Center over in Boyle Heights.
That's actually a lot.
Yeah. And I know I just said Boyle Heights, and that made some of you people go, what? No. It is a fucking awesome store.
I used to work over there.
You have to go there.
It is. It's great.
I find stuff in there I've never seen before, like this. I find, and the prices are relatively reasonable. They're a little bit more. But it's a giant mega store of a lot of different beers and a lot of different booze. So it's well worth the trip.
So what is this?
And if you go on Saturday and Sunday, there's a nice little taco stand right across the street.
What's the style here again?
It's Phantom, so it's always somewhat in the style of a Saison.
Okay.
Right?
So it's almost a Saison.
Yep. Now, I will tell you, Danny's beers are always heavily carbonated. One of the first experiences I ever had with Phantom was I was studying for the BJCP exam, right? And I went, oh, well, I'm going to have a Phantom so I can study Saison, because I have to study Saison. And I got a bottle, and it was beautiful. Popped it open. Jim Kapitsky and I were tasting together. Poured it into the glass, and it came in a glass just like this one does, nice and frothy. And then you pour it onto your tongue, and you got this explosion of a little bit of Brett character, a little bit of spices, and then the beer turned to foam and disappeared, and it left behind this light, fruity, strawberry type taste, and it was amazing. I never quite captured that ever again, but that's one of the joys of Phantom. All right, so what are we thinking? Obviously, I said my sample had a little bit of light struck going on from the green bottle.
I think that's the pictures.
I feel like a cherry.
I smell gold.
That's the skunk. That's the skunk.
Yeah, there's a big cherry fruit in this. almost not quite.
Tart cherry.
Yeah, tart cherry, not cough drop cherry. All right.
What's
Huh? Again, it's Phantom, so it's always going to be Saison Farmhouse. That's what they do.
Funkadilk.
All right. Other comments? Herbal. All right. Herbal how?
Like mugwort or something really.
There you go.
Go ahead. Are we all just concentrating trying to figure it out?
You should nitro this.
They should nitro this. I don't know if Danny would know how to nitro anything. All right. Any other comments about the coffee ruby?
Yeah, where's the coffee?
Yeah, not a lot of coffee.
Not a lot of coffee. Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah, mostly what I get is sort of that extra little roasty bitterness in the finish, and that's where I think most of the coffee is coming from.
I think it's horrible. I hate it. Is there any more?
You're the phone.
Has anybody got any more for the treasure, or are we done?
No, I'm just kidding. I already had it a second.
All right. Let's go through the list real quick. How many people still like the first one, Ballast Point Calm Before the Storm Cream Ale with vanilla and coffee?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Flat Tail 6 a.m. Stout. All right, that's still retaining some fans. The McKellar Beer Geek. We got two. You aren't alone. You're never alone. All right, and then finally the Phantom Coffee Ruby. Now, it's no surprise that's my favorite because I'm a Phantom geek. Yeah. By the way, you want to get that coffee effect? Take a big slug, and right when you swallow it, it's like, hi. And see, this is good for me because I didn't have my morning coffee today. So, hey! And besides, I like to drink my coffee cold anyway. All right, so while this one's coming, yeah, Dean? Guys?
I like the first better, but the only non-stout coffee I've had, and I prefer it.
Well, that Phantom wasn't stout. That Phantom wasn't a stout. Well, yes, but we know your taste buds and what they're worth. All right. So while these guys are running around pouring the next one, which is a Belgian quad with coffee
And chocolate.
and chocolate. Yeah, there are a ton of notes about this beer online. It's really frustrating.
These ones are all in Dutch.
Yep.
I can read it.
I can read it. All right. So. Let's talk about how you add coffee to your beers. There are a couple different ways to do it. Some people say no.
Randall.
Yeah, Randall. We'll get there. Don't jump the gun, buddy. All right. So first one is I've known people to go and do things like, hey, add coarse ground coffee to the mash. For those of you who were around when Johnny Lieberman was still brewing and not being a car reviewer, he used to make a beer called Black Wine, which was sort of a North American mega stout that came in at like 18 to 20% alcohol. And that got basically 2 pounds of coffee ground up and tossed into the mash. All right, so that's a very common way to do it. Some people prefer to do it by adding it to the boil. I think both of those techniques that you extract a lot of roasty bitterness. Another very popular technique is for people to do dry beaning. So instead of adding dry hops, you add coffee beans to your secondary. Yep. I'm always a little unnerved by that because of the whole infection possibility, but whatever. A lot of people do it. A lot of people have great success.
Drink it fresh.
Yeah, you can put them in some vodka. You can.
It's good enough for modern times. It's
Well, I
good enough for me.
What about putting ground coffee in the boil?
Well, I said that. Yeah.
Does it? By the way, does that matter? How long or how short? I mean, is that?
I wouldn't do it very long.
Just.
I wouldn't do it very long because you're going to extract a lot of bitterness.
Yeah.
What about brewing coffee separately and adding that?
Can you guys let me finish what I'm talking?
We're stealing his thunder.
All right.
Cheers, grasshopper.
All right. For fuck's sake, am I the Grand Hydro or not? All right.
Only one know-it-all allowed to talk at one time.
Now, if that was the case, we'd never get this meeting done. All right. So, we got coffee into the boil. We got coffee dry beaning. Then you have people who like to basically go down to the Starbucks or their local barista and go get multiple tall shots of espresso and add that into the keg. So that's another way people do it. My preferred method, I actually do cold brew. Cold brew is basically coarse ground coffee, soak overnight in just cold water, no heat applied whatsoever. Let that soak overnight, and then filter it out. I do it in a French press. I know, John, you do it like in a bucket, right?
Yeah, actually, I was going to do a lunchtime demo next month if everybody's in favor to go through. I have a lot of equipment that actually just for cold brew coffee, how to do it, and then how to nitrogenate it and all that stuff. So it's too long to talk about right now. But
yeah, but it's super easy to do, and this is why I make 2 batches of cold brew coffee in my big ass French press every weekend, and store that in the fridge. And every morning, basically, a cup of ice, bunch of water, a little bit of coffee concentrate. And in this particular case, when you're using it for beer, you just use the coffee concentrate and you go straight into the beer. And to my mind, I think I get the cleanest, sweetest coffee flavor doing it that way. And that's my preferred method.
Why are you not worried about infection from that method?
Because I'm insane and inconsistent. Right, guys?
I thought about replacing the mash water or all the water and brew with cold brew coffee.
Well, in that particular case, then you're going for B to the E, which is death or glass. How many people remember B to the E? Well, all right, that was that short-lived trend where Anheuser-Busch made like little narrow Red Bull-esque looking cans with malt liquor infused with caffeine and guarana. I love coffee, but I think doing all the mash water as coffee might be a little too insane. But you're more than welcome to try it.
Get a hell of a lot of tannins.
I know. All right.
Coffee is just nothing can grow in that.
Yeah. It might be. Yeah. I need to actually go and measure it. Kale?
How does Smoke City, because their coffee order thing is mostly coffee with a touch of beer. What is?
I think they do. I think they do cold brew as well. Yeah. But that's just me half remembering something. So don't take my word for it. But
What kind of ratios when you're making that cold brew coffee with no water to grounds ratio?
183 grams of coffee to 183 grams of coffee to 855 grams of water.
How about a temperature in vodka?
Yep. So we'll get there. So, but I keep it on my phone.
How much consideration do you give to bean selection?
I give a lot.
Variety?
I give a lot, but I'll get there next. But let's finish the coffee additions. You can make a coffee extract using vodka or tincture. And I've shown you guys how to do that super fast. It works for coffee too. Or just let it ground sit in vodka for a week. I tend to prefer to avoid long exposure to a solvent, because then I think you start to pull out more of the harsher characteristics, which is part of the reason why I like the cold brew, because the cold brew doesn't have very many in the way, does not have much in the way of harsh characteristics. And the final methodology for adding I'm going to cover is Kevin's favorite way of adding it, which is stick a Randall in front of the damn keg and pour it straight through there.
It is delicious.
You do that with your stout, right?
I do it with
Stout.
I do it with milk stout, sweet stout.
So
Going through
good.
flavored Dutch chocolate flavored coffee.
Yeah.
It's so
And that's awesome. You see that all the time at the fest. 1 year when we went up to Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Seattle Homebrewers Conference, which was 2-3 years ago. We had the Randall bar out, and we had some coffee left over, and we had filled up all the other Randalls, and we had coffee in a Randall, and we went, well, shit, we don't have anything dark to pour through it. What are we going to do? And Kent had one last keg, because he had made multiple kegs just for the Randall bar, of Elkwood wheat. And we were like, okay. Put the keg of Elkwood wheat in there, put it on the coffee, poured it through the Randall, and it was like, holy sweet Mary. It was beautiful. I like, of all the beers that we had on the bar, that was one I kept going back to the whole night, because it was like, give me a little more of that juice, you know.
Didn't pick up any color at all, so it's still a ultra light straw colored American wheat.
Yeah, but basically, But basically, it was, hey, this is my beer conference go juice.
Mosquito Rock stimulus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a nice consolation when
Whole beans. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, mention whole beans.
Yeah, whole beans in the Randall. Whole beans in the Randall, fresh right out of the bag, so they're still nice and oily and juicy. All right. Let's talk the Castile Barista chocolate quad with coffee. What do we think? This one to me, I mean, obviously that chocolate characteristic is huge. Nice sweet chocolate character, not a lot of the harsher tannin tones.
Strong coffee aroma.
Yeah, strong coffee all the way through this, and also it's built on top of what's a really nice quad.
Yeah.
How big is this thing?
11.
Oh, Jesus.
It's really
Yeah, so I'm going to need you all to leave while I have a moment with this beer. No, but seriously, this would prove very dangerous over a long day of drinking, I think, because you kind of keep sitting here bending the elbow, and next thing you know, it's going to be a bad idea. All right, what other comments do we have? Good? Steve Cook, a man of many words. Good.
Does the caramel taste a little bit of caramel?
Well, yeah, and I think that's coming from some of the darker sugars they're using. You know, particularly like if you ever taste any of that Belgian dark candy syrup that we now have our hands on, that really rich and a nice little bit of caramel to it. All right, other comments?
I think the really strong coffee aroma, they've managed to get that without any real harshness or bitterness, and I mean that may be just masked by it's such a rich, sweet beer anyway, but it's like it's got the power of the coffee flavor without
any harshness.
Yeah.
All right, and Kent, you had a comment?
I was kind of these beers are kind of inspiring me, and I was thinking of an interesting combination. I remembered a popular Firestone stout that they had to change the name on, and one of my favorite varieties of Pete's coffee, and figured I'd brew up Major Dick with Velvet Merkin.
Leave it to Flitch to bring the dick rig joke in.
Now you have to do it.
All right.
For that internet crowd.
Yep. See, look, it's not all just dicks on the internet. They're also in real life. All right, let's go through. Ramirez. All of this beer came from Ramirez. So, venture into Boyle Heights, you can go find it.
I'd like to put in an order for this, please.
Yeah, this is nice. All right, let's go down the list. Ballast Point, Calm Before the Storm. How many people still like that one the best? Oh, that got the big loser this time. All right. Gee, I wonder what's in winning right now. Flat Tail. How many people still like the 6 a.m. breakfast stout? All right. How many people like the McKellar Beer Geek?
I want that.
Well, you're now on the Lone Island. Here's a lone one.
I want that milk stout again.
All right. Fantone the Coffee Ruby.
You guys are wrong.
All right. And how many people want to have a group session with a Castile Quad? Yeah. All right.
I need to smoke a cigarette.
All right.
Ready?
How big is it? All right, and now, just because I hate you, we're closing off with the Solark Night Capsicum Black IPA with hatch chilies and coffee. Now you know a lot about these guys.
I don't know as much as I wish I did.
Well, okay, but you know more than I do. So
I have a sneaking suspicion they're really a couple of brewers that are posting as a real brewery, but
well, I think they're contract brewers.
yeah, I don't know where are they brewing now.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness! Hey, don't bring it up, my man.
All right.
That much? Come on.
Let's please leave the hot, sweaty man-on-man beer action for later. All right. So, Solark is they're an unusual thing, as Chris and I were just talking about. We don't really know a whole hell of a lot about them. They are an LA-based contract brewery, and they are effectively into doing very, very strange things. Chris, what's some of the stuff you have?
They have Dunes, which is a gruit. If you can find it, and you've been saying all this time, I wanted to have a commercial gruit, but there isn't one. These guys make one. They also have another one. Do you remember the other one? Well, no, there's another gruit they have, though, that's called like Branches or something like that. It's, I think, a little bit better than Dunes. I just had that one down at Sunset. I don't remember the name, though. They've only made a few beers. Very hard to get. If you do find them, definitely, I'd try them.
Do you have any idea what they use them to do? Yeah.
Who knows? All right.
Branches, yeah.
So,
stuff.
no, that's what it says on the bottle. So hatch chilies and coffee. Now, what's nice about this is, for a chili beer, not a lot of actual heat. You got some of that. There is a little bit of the hatch chili flavor, but you're doing pretty well.
It's not chilling.
All right.
It doesn't have that chilling.
Yeah, it doesn't have the overpowering heat thing, which is nice. It definitely has a sharpness to it. We're kind of back into some of that McKellar territory, where McKellar had that same sort of sharpness in the finish. Definitely an IPA. Yeah, a lot of finishing bitterness. I'm still somewhat of a mixed bag on black IPA as a thing. Mostly because I think a lot of times it really should just be called American Porter. But overall, this isn't too bad. I think they're using the coffee to reinforce some of the roast characters.
How do you know there's coffee now?
Because it says.
All I can say is it says coffee. I couldn't find anything about coffee.
All right, well, hold on. Well, screw it. I may have been wrong on this one. They had another one that had coffee in it, and I obviously grabbed the wrong one. All right, so this is just a black IPA with chili. Say, look, I'm not perfect. All right, now here's the thing. This one says on the bottle, brewed and bottled by Inland Empire Brewing Company.
There you go.
So that's where they're being brewed out of Riverside.
There's contact for us.
All right. Oh, they're now King Harbor. There you go.
It's got a little coffee.
Yeah, but I think that's the roast character.
Yeah.
I could have sworn I read something online that said. All right. Yeah. So now let's talk about coffee selection before we close out today. We talked about how you can add coffee. A lot of people, you got a couple different choices, right? Sorry, you have a lot of different choices, but you have three main choices in terms of like your roast, or a couple main choices. You got light roast, medium roast, dark roast, and then you also have espresso roast usually that you'll be able to commonly find. I'm a fan of light coffees when I'm doing things that are a hot side. Not a fan of light coffees anytime I'm doing anything that's a cold edition. And it took me a while to figure out why. When you do light coffees, they don't, there's a chemical compound class called methoxypyrazine that does not get pyrolyzed in the roasting process for a light roasted coffee. And methoxypyrazine, when you taste it, tastes like green peppers. Chili peppers, jalapenos. It's that green note. You sometimes find it in wines, particularly Sauvignon Blanc. So coffee beans carry a lot of these pyrazines with them. And like I said, they're normally pyrolyzed or burnt out when you go through the roasting process. But in light roasts, they don't do that. So I discovered this because I had a beer at a Doug King competition where it had a big, strong green pepper jalapeno note. And I finally went and did some research and discovered this whole class of chemicals. So for any sort of cold side addition of coffee, I never recommend using a light roast. I always would say use at least a medium roast. And a lot of people are fans of dark roast. I still do when I'm doing the cold brew additions, because cold brew is so intense, I tend to use medium roast. Now, if you want to get into origination zones like Kenyan versus Ethiopian versus Kona versus Jamaican Blue Mountain, that's all going to come down to personal taste. Yeah.
I have a friend who brews a product called Black Blood Beer. Cold brewed, vacuum something or other. He's got this process.
Right.
Anyway, but he does varietals from different regions. and across the varietals is a huge.
Yeah, oh no, it totally is, but it's the kind of thing that you have to explore. Like for me, one thing I do know is a lot of the coffees out of like that Ethiopian region in Africa. One thing I do note out of them, like when they're good coffee beans and they haven't been mistreated, very strong dry chili leather flavor and aroma out of a lot of those. So that's one thing to note. And you may or may not like it. Intelligentsia, for instance, when Eagle Rock first did their stimulus brew, they used, I think it was a Kenyan coffee, and that Kenyan coffee from Intelligentsia had that very strong chili leather. You know, so just like dried chili pods out there.
It's very fruity though.
Yeah. But they tend to go hand in hand. All right. So real quick, let's walk down the list. Obviously, you can include the Solark in there as your favorite beer, but it's not really a coffee beer because your Grand Hydro screwed up. How many people like the Ballast Point? All right, we got two hangers-ons. Flat tail. All right, there we go. The McKellar Beer Geek. We got our two. You're no longer alone again. Never alone. Phantom Coffee Ruby.
Raise my hand.
All right. Castillo Barista Quad. Once again, proving that homebrewers will always go for the strongest beer, but also in this case, probably the most well-rounded beer. And then finally, the Solar. How many people like that the best, eh? All right. All right. Now, before we leave the talk, I do have a special gift that was brought to us. You guys wait. I have a special gift that was brought to us from a satellite member of the club, Chris Richer, who I suspect is on the line. Hi, Chris. Everybody say hi to Chris. Hi. All right. And Chris, you may have seen his postings on our Facebook group. He's been the one dealing with the Maker's Mark barrel, and he sent us a couple of bottles of the Meet Your Maker Stout. There are two of those and one of the IPA, but we'll hold off on the IPA for later. So these are going to have to stretch. All right? Joy. Yeah. You guys are professionals. We'll get there too. Somebody added that without me being aware of it. All right. So we don't have a ton of detailed notes, but Chris's request, since he sent us this, was he wanted us to give him a real honest sensory evaluation of the beer and give him the results. Assuming he's on the line, he gets his results live. All right. So this was an all-grain batch, 51 gallons, boiled for 60 minutes, brewed on April 30 or April 30, 2015. So either April 8th or April 30th. Yep. And then aged in a Maker's Mark bourbon barrel from June 8th to September 26th. Original gravity was 1102. Final gravity was 1020. Super dark, 59 SRM, 81 IBUs, 11% ABV, and using the White Labs 007 yeast. All right. So,
Northwest.
no, it's
California
British.
too.
No, it's British.
It's British.
Oh, 07.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just James Bond.
I'm not getting that much of a oaky and bourbon character. It's very, very, very light.
Oh, really? Oh, no, I totally get it. All right, Bernard, check your nose. You may have been overwhelmed by your beer cellar.
Check your throat.
Yeah.
All right.
All I can say is, what did you have for breakfast that you can't taste the bourbon in this?
He had a fifth of Maker's Mark. Right. All right. Oh, yeah. So I love Bourbon County.
Anderson Valley.
Anderson Valley. All right. We got a good stout character in here. However, if you were to tell me that if you were to ask me how big I thought this was, I would attribute a lot of alcohol notes to the bourbon that's obviously in this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think this was 11%. Now, I think this would be like an 8%. You know, maybe I'm insane. A lot of dry. It finishes with a lot of dry dark roasted malt character. It has a big body in the middle, and definite high tones of bourbon, and those strong woody notes in the oak.
The big full body kind of makes me think it's a
There's vanilla. There's also vanilla.
I would guess it was pretty alcohol too. It's a little boozy too.
Well, no, I would think the booze, but like all the big booze character I get is bourbon.
It's a little hot too.
Yeah, but that's where warm.
It's also a tad of sour to it. Just a tad of sour.
I think that's coming from the roast. Yeah, the combination of the roast and the tan. Now, by the way, this is going to be something later on today when we do troubleshooters. One thing I do want to talk about in that, because I have a sample to talk about with it, is the difference between sourness and astringency.
So do you think this
Right?
is souring, or do you think this is astringent?
I think it's astringent.
It's astringent.
Yeah.
It almost has it like it's starting to turn sour.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Oak always, because of the tannins are astringent. So when you do oak aging, you're going to pick up astringent. So it's expected.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, quick question. Did he mention if the ABV he gave you is just from calculating the gravities, or because with the barrel, you
I know,
get
with
up
the
to
barrel,
2% more
yeah,
ABVs?
with the barrels, well, yeah, depending upon how freshly dumped the barrel is, it's anywhere from 0.5% if it's a really dry barrel, all the way up to like 2.5% if it's like, sopping wet. So yeah, and by the way, that was a big thing a couple of years ago when the state and the ABC went and changed their laws about barrel-aged beers because it was really targeting alternatives, right? And they were trying to say you can only get X, Y, Z percentage of alcohol from whatever flavoring you're adding. And that really sort of was going to screw the pooch on a lot of these bourbon barrel beers because the maximum alcohol percentage gained from a flavoring was supposed to be under 1%. Yeah, and a lot of these bourbon barrel aged stouts and barley wines and everything else can gain somewhere around 2%. The state, the government actually carved out an exception for barrel aged beers.
I don't think the feds have done that yet, though.
I don't think the feds ever stepped in on it. That was a California effort.
They regulate how much alcohol you can get from non-fermented.
Yeah, but I don't think they've ever said that barrels are outside the norm. So, all right, other comments about Chris's
Damn good.
makers?
Everybody,
Everybody, thanks you, man.
How long did you say he aged it for?
He says on his notes from June 8th to September 26th. So, that's what 4 months, 3 months.
It must have been a wet barrel.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, it was a fresh barrel in terms of never being used for anything else.
Yes.
Because so much of that character.
You can taste it.
Yep.
I'm still not sure. Can we get a couple more bottles?
Yeah. All right. You have the address. You know where to send it.
We're not quite sure about it.
We can send him a self-addressed stamped form.
There you go. Keg delivery service.
I'm kind of being a little picky here, but I like a darker char to my oak barrel-aged imperial stouts, and I suspect that Maker's Mark doesn't quite char their barrels to the same degree that other Kentucky, bourbon makers are. And just a thought: if he makes it again, maybe try a different.
Always
Picky. All right. But no, I agree. Again, this all comes down to this is all individual flavors. All right. Any other comments?
Yeah, Maker's.
Very well.
What was the final again?
The final gravity was 1020. So this had a hell of a fermentation on it. I mean, it went down to 82 points. So that's a fair amount of booze right there. All right, any other comments? Wait.
What kind of blue cheese are you eating?
Well, yeah, I could see the blue cheese coming from a combination of that astringency, combination of the booze, and a little bit of sort of that earthiness that comes from the barrel.
Tastes more like a canterbury to me.
Shut up, Dave.
And booted.
All right. So everybody, make sure you thank Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And we'll do your IPA troubleshooter so you can get sensory there. All right. All right. And now, what surprise beer?
Yay, John.
Yay.
Like, no, literally, I didn't see that. I didn't see that get added to the list until I turned around at one point and went, "What?" So, 8 beers in your Grand Hydro tasting.
Damn it!
Damn. And have we broached noon yet?
I see we got the meeting up,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you guys
We need to start drinking more.
All right, it's time to seriously start drinking. All right, so John,
Well,
which version of brownie wine is this?
well, Steve, you want to talk about this? No, this is the real thing. This is the 40th anniversary barley wine that we Firestone Walker brewed. And who was there? I mean, I wasn't one. All right. Who wants to talk about it? Yes, this is the brownie wine. Brownie wine, yeah.
Where's
Some of
Steve?
you guys were
Yeah,
there.
where's Steve at?
Or Alan,
Amazing
or
day ever.
It was mostly Steve's recipe. Well, you guys all know what this beer is. I mean, it's what, 11:30 or something?
something like it's
Imperial brown ale.
Yeah, Imperial American Brown Ale aged in rum barrels and bourbon barrels.
And brandy barrels.
And brandy barrels. That's right, I forgot about the brandy part.
I think we want a shit ton of brown malt.
Yeah,
And
lots of,
honey.
well, a shit ton of everything. Yes. I mean, this beer is basically, the recipe is a kitchen sink recipe, right? It's a little bit of everything. Special things in it include the brown malt,
60 pounds of honey.
60 pounds of buckwheat honey. They even added, they even added, they added malt extract to it because this beer was so big it needed the extract in order to get to gravity.
700 pounds of extra.
Yeah.
How big was the batch that you did?
We talked about this.
57 barrels.
Your recipe.
60 barrels.
57 barrels.
57
I've got the sheet from Firestone. I'll bring it back. I have to run and get Dana's cake and the checkbook, and I'll
Yeah, actually, it was just a big barley wine that I actually formulated the recipe from one of the best barley wines we've ever had, Old Smoky, and basically took brown elements and fit them in there and spread it up, sent it out to a few guys, sent it out to I think these guys. They all came back with 85. Oh, you can't do this. You got to do this. So I sent it to the brewer anyway, and he says, I can do that.
Well, no. Hold on.
So it was exactly the recipe that made up.
Point of order. We didn't say you can't do that. We said
we shouldn't.
Yeah. Now I will say.
Let's be sensitive to the brewery and their brewery and not give an 1100.
Yeah.
Starting.
Oh, no, hell no. We didn't care about that part.
No, he said he wanted to do it.
He said we'll do
anything
you want.
We can do all of that.
Now I will say one thing. Like I think last year when this was fresh, it still felt very, very sticky. And I think the year or so that we now have on this has actually really kind of improved. I think it's dried out a little bit more. It's definitely never going to be the driest beer in the universe, but it's dried out. The alcohol is kind of incorporated a little bit better. We don't have the same high notes that we had from the barrels that we did last year. And overall, yeah, I think this is far more.
It's so good.
This is far more approachable as a 13 to 14% beer can be.
Exactly.
Where in the growlers has been stored?
This has been at John's shop, right?
In one of your walk-ins.
It's been in
In a keg.
stored and refrigerated the whole time.
How come it's been poured from the growlers instead of the?
Because he brought growlers.
Because it's in a keg.
It's not one of the ones that bring the beer in your pocket, right?
No.
Oh no, this wasn't bottled.
This was a Firestone Walker keg that we had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. John, how much more do we have?
I'm not entirely sure. I know for sure there's at least another gallon and then maybe another probably 6 gallons. Yeah.
Cool. So your answer is either a little bit more drunkenness left or a whole hell of a lot of drunkenness still left.
You do.
Yes.
And it's a great beer. Homebrewers, we can brew this.
have.
Not had much difficulty to brew it. Single infusion mash, lots of adjuncts, good stuff. We've done it out here. We've done it. We did a 75-gallon brew at Richard's house, and we did. We 55 gallons in a rum barrel. Biggest home brew I ever did. 75 gallons.
Well, but truthfully, for Richard's system, brownie wine was just another brew day.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was 3 Richard systems.
That's more of a starter beer.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, John, for bringing it. Thanks for holding on.
Thank you, John.
and neither can anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you live?
From a lot of them bottles, how long do you think those are?
Well, for a while.
A couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, like I would guess, based on the size of this thing, at least 10 years.
10?
10 years?
Hey,
Yeah, the one
guys,
I'd like to ask anyone who had it this year versus last year, who likes it better last year versus this year? Last year.
I like it better this year.
How about this year?
How many people liked it better this year?
This year.
All right, how many people liked the Brian White better last year?
I like the stickiness last I did too.
It was more
The
than
texture was.
I like it younger.
I don't know.
And how many
Had more
people
body.
tasted it last year?
We'll see next year.
Yep.
You know, I'm gonna keep drinking.
Hey guys, if you have any beers for the list, you can see that we're getting ready to start the whole schmagegi of actually pouring. So if you have things and they're not up here, make sure they get up here. Otherwise, you're going to confuse things and piss people off. So, all right. And speaking of which, one of the one I have, it says on Farmhouse is mine. I also have an Earl Grey says on, and they're both about the same strength.
Earl Grey saison.
Yep. All right. So, with that, that's going to conclude our internet broadcast for now. We'll be back to you guys with troubleshooters.
Hey!
Say bye, everybody.